Hey everybody, it's Ricky's Rockin' Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Superman American Alien by John Landis. Now I'm kicking myself because it's taken me so long to read this. This is a phenomenal Superman story. I absolutely loved it. It is kind of a collection of stories of the times, like the crucial moments in Clark Kent's life that helped him develop as a person, helped him develop as Clark Kent and as Superman, and how he kind of puts those two identities together. And I thought it was just a really, really cool story. Really brilliant moments. In particular, there was just some iconic panels in here where if I was a director, I would want to show these scenes. And also some really, really good dialogue. And I just wanted to remind everybody, I'm on Instagram. I post all of my written reviews on there. And then I keep my video reviews here, obviously. And of course, also like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews for, really cool books and comics. And some just the general discussions on books, because I love to read. So Max Landis is the son of John Landis, legendary filmmaker who directed The Blues Brothers, the Thriller music video, and American Werewolf in London. So he's got a really good resume, and I think some of the stuff that he experienced obviously influenced his son. Max Landis was an up-and-comer, and this came out in 2016, and he became known for having some really cool pitches online. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the build and, some panels and stuff so you can get an idea. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of the story and what I liked about it. So pulling off the dust jacket there, here's the image, and I believe this is one of the variant covers for issue number 7. This is a 7-issue series wraparound cover. Here's the image before the first issue. Very first issue is called Dove. And here's Clark. He's levitating uncontrollably, and his mom is freaked out. So interestingly, the tagline for this was, "This is not a Superman story." And I think the point of that is because they didn't want people to think that this is just a straight up story about his adventures and stuff like that. Max Landis wanted to show that there was these crucial, particular, specific moments that kind of shape Clark to become the man that we all know him to be. And there are definitely threads in between each story, and there's big time jumps as well. So in order to help facilitate that, I think that's why they went with different artists for each issue. So each comic looks a little bit different. There's 7 issues again. Each issue has a unique title. So what makes this so good? So in the beginning, we start with Clark as a young boy. He's probably like, 8 or 9. And maybe a little bit younger. And he's just discovering his powers, and his parents are coming to terms with how they're going to deal with it. So some of these moments in here were very brilliant, and I almost started shedding a tear just because of how cinematic some of it felt, and just how concentrated the mythos of Superman felt in these panels. It was just really, really well done. For example, like his first flight, and kind of like foreshadowing of his costume. Oh man, it's just so well done. And even Max Landis himself kind of describes this issue as like his Pixar issue, because each comic also has its own feel, which was really cool. How we get a lot of variety. I'm all about variety, so I like short stories and stuff like that. The second issue is him as an adolescent. He gets into a little bit of trouble, but he learns a lot about the consequences of his strength, and you also kind of see what his upbringing is like, as far as like being a small town kid, a small town adolescent, teenager, young man, and he has friends, and it kind of makes sense how everyone in here that he interacts with on like in his little Kansas town in Smallville is aware of his powers. Like everyone that's close to him It makes sense because back in the times when the mythos was created, and even now I believe in like a small town, people really trust each other and they're very tight knit. So it makes sense why some of his friends know what's going on. And it also makes the story real interesting. It's actually the first time he comes into conflict with somebody and there's actual like violence. So it was pretty gritty. The art itself is gritty too. The third issue is called Parrot, and it takes place on a yacht. And this is where it's extremely well done, because although this is a Superman story, it is 100% entrenched inside of the DC universe. So this is where we start seeing his world expand, and it also starts to make sense as to why he chooses to become a reporter in Metropolis and the Daily Planet. This experience here that he has on the yacht and how he gets there is really funny. But this experience is what kind of instills this idea in him to branch out and leave his small town of Smallville and start seeing the world. And especially with all the gifts that he has. It's something that he always kind of alluded to in his earlier issues. And it's really cool. The people he meets, the people he interacts with, and who he gets mistaken for is really nicely done. And I also really loved how this story has consequences, or this story has some ramifications that are felt later on when he arrives in Metropolis. So the fourth issue has art by Jay Lee, and this is Clark after he's made the decision to go to Smallville. And so that's what the artwork is like. And in this issue, Max Landis kind of describes it as a psychological thriller. So, and it does feel like that, because although there isn't necessarily any action here, what you really feel is the tension in the dialogue and like this kind of battle of the minds. And it's really well done. And this issue makes a really cool turn as far as where Clark ends up by the end of the issue, and who he has a run-in with. It's just so well done. It is so cool. And this is where, I want to stop avoiding plot points and stuff like that. But after this issue, he starts to get the idea of becoming an actual superhero. And he has influences. I'll just say that. And then after that, there's just a couple more issues where his friends from back home come back to visit him in Metropolis, and we see Clark as a changed man. And I think this was a really important issue because it kind of shows the separation between his small town life and who he has to become, or what he has to adapt to in Metropolis, and he has to kind of try to reconcile that. There's also some devastating foreshadowing here. There's also like in between a few of the issues, there's like splicings of mini stories that are like 1 page long. Some of them even don't have any dialogue, but they kind of show the creation of some of his villains. So it's kind of just foreshadowing that he hasn't been really challenged yet, and that every time that he's in a fight, every time people hear stories about this this blur that's saving people and getting into harm's way, the people back home in Smallville are terrified, and he hasn't even really been tested yet, like I said. So the very last issue is called Valkyrie, and this one is super gritty, but this is the comic book third act. This is an action-packed, brutal story where Clark, Kal-El, Superman meets Lobo, and I won't show you any more of that. But this is when he really gets tested for the first time. And in this issue, he also kind of has to come to terms with something that he's had in his mind, as far as like where he really came from and what's out there for him. What is out there? He knows that he's an alien, and he kind of has to come to terms with, what happened to his people on Krypton and stuff. And he needs to fully embrace the world that is his, which is Earth. But anyways, this was really well done. At the end, there's of course like the variant covers and some sketches. And I thought what was really cool at the very end was Max Landis's pitch to DC Comics, where he kind of has a write-up of the tone and some of the story beats. And it's really interesting to see how closely the issues were faithful to the initial pitch, like how not very much had to change. But it's also very interesting to see how he consolidated some of the story beats, and also what ended up changing. And I feel like the changes were for the better. Only drawback that I would give to this is that it's supposed to be several different moments, but the way they all connected, it really told a really, really cool story, which is why I feel like there could have been a 8th issue potentially to kind of, just wrap up the theme, and also give a little bit of weight to Clark and Lois's relationship, and maybe something to kind of bow tie it with his parents back at home. But other than that, I had a really, really awesome time reading this. I would definitely read it again and flip through it. It's really, really cool. Some highlights, like I said, are the foreshadowing of who he becomes when he was just like a kid in the very first issue, as far as like costume and flight and everything. And then I really liked his conversations with Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne. That was just some really cool stuff. I highly recommend you guys check this out. With James Gunn revealing the look of Superman for his new film, it's actually a little bit more controversial, or has a mixed views on it than I expected. And I thought it was okay. We have to see a little bit more. I do not like the neckline at all. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. Jim Lee's redesigns for the New 52, terrible. That's the worst Superman costume. You got the collar, make him look like royalty. No, don't like that at all. I don't like the his sleeves coming up to here, like little pointy diamonds. Looks very, I don't know, feminine, weird. And then all the weird lines, and I don't know. Jim Lee's art is not my cup of tea. I think his lines are way too thin, makes everything look weightless. And I want to feel the weight when I'm reading my comics. I want to feel those punches. I want to see those muscles, feel like real meat. Oh my God, what am I saying? Anyways, guys, if you want to hear more of my thoughts like that, or reviews for books, comics, and just, my random thoughts, please like and subscribe. And again, follow me on Instagram. Thank you guys, and have a good one.